Mark here from Rock and Load, and today I'm joined by two dudes, Fred Hale Andy Muse from the Sons of Liberty UK, one of the UK's finest southern rock bands. How are you guys doing?
Yeah,
very good. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, very good, Mark. Thanks.
Pleasure. Yeah, I'm sure. So like, this is our first time actually sort of talking anything like face to face. It's good to finally catch up with you guys. So tell us a little bit about the band first before we delve into yourselves and where you got to, what sort of long winding journey you got on the guitar to get you to where you are today. So give us a bit of an introduction about the band first of all.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're not on the first flush of youth, so we've been around since classic rock was just rock. And we lived through the wilderness years like everyone when it became really unfashionable to write original rock music, and the whole world's just come back round to us now at this fairly late stage in what we've been doing, and it's just been phenomenal. So 2017 we started writing our first original EP, released 2 in 2018, and now we're 2 albums in, and really busy, really enjoying the touring, getting out to all these great places, meeting people, and it's just been a bit of a whirlwind kind of ride really, which to be fair we probably thought our ship had sailed, but the world's come back round to what we're doing. And like you say, we're a southern rock band. We started out with the 5 of us all had a kind of mutual love for that type of music, so that's definitely in what we do, but we also brought those years of a kind of wider experience of rock music to what we write. So we just write sort of what comes out of us really.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say, I mean, there's like Fred said, I mean, there's definitely a classic rock kind of vibe in there, as well as the sort of the southern rock vibe that comes from the sort of storytelling, if you like. But and a few of the guys have got a bit more of a sort of metal-y background as well, from 80s onwards. So there's a right old melting pot of influences when it comes to pulling stuff together. But yeah, just to echo Fred's sentiment, the kind of ride that we've been on since we sort of dipped our toe into the water with original material has been quite staggeringly amazing. So yeah, I think we still talk about it in the van on the way to gigs. It's kind of like, can you believe we're really doing this stuff? So it's quite staggeringly good.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, like, I was listening to your stuff earlier on today, and I would say that it would be unfair just to coin you guys as purely a southern rock band, because you can hear everything there from AC/DC right through to the 80s hair metal in between and everything, so it is, as you say, perfect words, melting pot of styles that have come together. And so did you form then roughly about, was it 2017? Is that when you guys got together?
No, we've been together as a band since 2014. So okay. And we all knew each other from other projects, other little local bands we were doing around the Bristol area, and we sort of came up with this crazy idea of getting together to do a sort of side project to do the southern rock stuff, and it kind of grew from there really. I mean, we actually found just as we sort of started to do that, bands like Blackstone Cherry, Blackberry Smoke, Cadillac 3 started to kind of break through, nationally, internationally at the same time. And all of a sudden there seemed to be a kind of an audience for the kind of stuff that we were into. And so the kind of side projects kind of, we played about, I don't know, 10 or 15 gigs a year kind of thing, doing mainly covers. And a few obscure things as well, but and then like Fred said, we had a little window in August 2017 when I think Mark was away on holiday, and we just took that opportunity to kind of raid Freddie's riff bank and pull together the first songs that turned into the Shinola EP. And from that point onwards, it's almost as though it's a different band. It's taken on a complete life of its own since then. So been quite exciting.
Yeah. And what do you think it was back then? Because as you sort of touched on, all of a sudden the tide sort of changed and the bands like Blackstone Cherry, Blackberry Smoke and stuff all of a sudden started resonating. Do you think, was it the digital age maybe? And maybe the introduction of digital radio and a broader audience of music coming through.
Yeah, definitely. That ability to reach, you were kind of force fed what the record labels wanted you to hear, and
Yeah.
you know, a lot of pop rock stuff for a few years on there, and heavy metal. You know, there was still a good sort of market for the real heavy stuff. But those kind of subgenres and slightly more eclectic flavors of music, you know, really have benefited from, you know, people moan about Spotify and the money and everything, but it's a fantastic way. You know, you can go and look at a, American Southern rock playlist, or you know, there's all these different outlets now, so it really has helped. So you're not reliant on, you know, just being the flavor of the month with the big hitters with the big budgets. Now you can reach an audience. And you know, and I think, yeah, there's always been a healthy audience for, you know, the classic old Skinner and Molly Hatchets and Blackfoots, and you know, so and the more country stuff, you know, like Black Smoke and
country as well. Country as a genre has exploded massively in the UK in the past couple of years.
Yeah, but it's massive. Huge in the States, isn't it? It's massive over there, and it has that sort of bled across the far more contemporary
country artists coming out of the UK now, rather than just the real old fashioned stuff which you would Suicide Watch, listen to that stuff, you know.
Exactly. And things like the Country to Country Festival, and there's you know, is it the Long Road? I think that's another festival that's specifically aimed at the more sort of country end of the market, and it's kind of cool to see. You know, I think Cadillac 3 have played both of those events in the past, you know, so that kind of like crossover, rock country crossover type thing has been really cool. So very good. And so you guys sort of fell into it at the right time, and as you said, you rode the crest of a wave really to find yourself sort of following in the footsteps of the American bands who were starting to make an impact.
I think it was just kind of that mixture of, you know, being in the right place at the right time. Obviously, you know, we're hugely lucky that the five of us are all in, you know, we love that kind of music, but everyone's, you know, good and brings something to the band, you know, so, you know, we're able to write together, we're able to, you know, put on a good live show. So I think all those things, and we work stupidly hard at it. I think it's a good combination, really. So if we hadn't achieved anything with all that, we'd have been doing something wrong.
And you say it's sort of like flicking a switch really after you dropped that first EP. It was like I suppose a cathartic moment for the band. You realize your purpose and direction then. I mean, the kind of, you know, we realized we could write songs together for a start, and you know, the combination of predominantly Freddie's guitar riffs and Rob's kind of melodic storytelling, kind of earthy sort of kind of realism that kind of gelled together. We found straight away we had another 5 or 6 songs kind of ready to go pretty much before the first EP had even dropped. So straight back in the studio for the Aged in Oak EP, sort of the middle of 2018, and we did a little bit of pre-production work with Toby Jepson from Little Angels, Wayward Sons kind of fame, and Toby gets around.
Oh yeah, and we've known him for years. I mean, back first time round, we kind of had a fair bit to do with him, but it was amazing to get in the room with him and kind of not deconstruct, but at least sort of unpick some of the kind of songs and work out what parts were working well, and his enthusiasm for the stuff that kind of we'd come up with was inspiring. It really was, you know. So we'd actually gone to the same studio that he'd used for the first Wayward Sons album, Vale Studios up near Evesham, and Chris Dada, the owner of the studio, kind of produced, if you like, the first 2 EPs, but really that was just helping us get 6 tracks down in a couple of days and hoping it came out all right at the end, you know. So but the feedback for, you know, those 2 EPs, kind of think of those together almost as like the first album. It kind of nearly works like that, and you know, the response to both EPs was just incredible, and from that point, you know, gig offers, festival slots, all that kind of stuff just seemed not dropped in our lap because it still needs work too, but we found at least we were getting the consideration that we didn't think we would be getting otherwise, you know.
Yeah. It's interesting though, as you say, when you touch on it, those EPs, I suppose, like really, you weren't sure yourselves if it was the right thing you're doing. You're testing the water, and you're just waiting for the response, you know, or the backlash.
whatever the first one was a demo, really. It was just, let's go and have a bit of fun in the studio and do some recording again. With no expectation, really short time frame. Obviously we've taken a lot longer over the two albums, particularly Aces and Eights, but we had no expectations from it. And you mentioned earlier, digital radio was as soon as people started playing some of those songs off the first EP, that was really the thing that opened the door for us. And and getting good feedback, and that's the huge thanks to all the hard-working, usually just sort of unpaid volunteers that do it for the passion that play new music all the time. It's just, it was amazing for us.
Yeah. And you sort of touched on obviously working with Toby Jepson there. I was interviewing Ollie Brown last week. I'm not sure if you know Ollie Brown.
Very well.
And Ollie was just talking about his journey as a young songwriter, and obviously that at one stage he started working with a producer who sort of sat him down and went through the whole fine picking of the songs as far as the songwriting process and the importance of certain aspects, because obviously I'm sure you guys know yourselves, you can probably write a song, but there's an art to doing it absolutely right, and then there's throwing a song together, so I'm sure Toby had a lot to contribute to help you guys sort of understand that craft, really.
He's a fantastic songwriter, and it was some of the things he said was so obvious that no one had ever said that to us before. And of course, every song has that kind of that's something about the construct that whatever he was talking about, the middle bits or whatever, and and it was just illuminating, but tapping into that, acknowledging experience, it was gold dust.
And his arrangement experience was cool too. So we were at a point for the songs that went on to Aged in Oak, we were just starting to think of the first kind of like backing vocal ideas and the fine detail of the song construction, and so having him in the room helping with that kind of stuff was really cool. And actually we went back and deconstructed the songs that had already been recorded for Shinola as well, just for in terms of, it was such an inspiring experience. It was kind of, it sort of made us want to go back and do those again almost, but with all these things you kind of move on and take those lessons, and hopefully all that kind of stuff ended up in Animism, and we know damn well that it all ended up in Aged in Oak too, by the time we got to working with a proper producer and having a different experience in the studio altogether.
And speaking of Animism, so that was your first sort of full-length album. Where did you record that again? Sorry.
That was recorded in a place called Monkey in West Wales. And we were just looking around for studios and looking at the artists that had been there, and I think I think Wild Hearts have been there, and a few other
Bad Touch
come across. Bad Touch, Bad Touch. And we liked the sound that was was on those. And also we were looking for residential places as well. So it was a bit of an experiment, but it worked nicely. And
it's all part of the process, all part of the learning experience, really, as well, isn't it?
Definitely.
If you don't have a massive record company behind you and all this stuff, you have to sort of do it DIY, and you're putting your faith in people that, looking at artists, as you say before, who've walked before you, and understanding. And that's and that's kind of how we selected Vale for the first EPs as well. Just kind of FM had been in there, and I think some of the guys from Bad Company had done some solo albums there, and they just kind of like dig out a bit of the track record and pull that together. But I think it's fair to say, without those earlier experiences, even the Animism experience too, we couldn't have jumped straight to
straight to aces and eights for from an experience point of view. You know, kind of we put a lot of the bits of knowledge in our pocket and took that with us, and then obviously working in a not necessarily a better facility, but you know, with a proper producer helping us work with the songs, I think really paid dividends.
Yeah, and it was really because when we recorded in our previous, you know, earlier ages, it was all 2-inch tape and 8 tracks and bouncing, you know, things across, and everyone on the faders to try and get the mix. You know, the digital stuff was, you know, it was an alien world to us. So it's a completely different way of working now. So, you know, we learned a lot about that as well. You know, we watching, not doing, but, you know, the possibilities and, you know, the importance of click, you know, playing to clicks and things that didn't really matter when it was all going on tape, because you couldn't chop things around that much.
And do you enjoy the studio experience? Do you find it pressure, or do you something?
It's different. It's a different enjoyment. I think it's kind of, there's nothing like, you know, we're a live band, so there's nothing like being out there in front of an audience with that immediate response in your face, you know, right back at you as you're playing. But yeah, the studio experience, you know, as we've grown into it, has become more enjoyable and you know, more challenging too. But certainly, you know, it's good fun. And a couple of weeks on the last album seemed to go by in a blink of an eye. You know, we were sort of loading in one moment and we were loading out the next. It was kind of like, oh blimey, where did all that time go? You know, so yeah, good fun.
Yeah, but it is you know, it's rewarding, and we have a lot of fun in our downtime as well. But it's I find it really stressful.
Yeah.
You know, the red light fever and all the self-doubt and all that. You know, and it's yeah. We say Moose said we're a live band, so we're used to hearing, you know, speakers a few feet behind us, probably way too loud because we're all a bit deaf now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just that experience of not playing in front of your amps in the same way as you do live.
And which way did they record, out of curiosity? So like, are you guys isolated on your cabs in another room? Just
yes. So for, you know, for guide tracks, you know, we put everything down as live as possible. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, so our guitar cabs stashed in a quiet room, and the drums in the main live room. Not even sure what Mark was doing with bass. Possibly DI'd at that point, or no, I think he did have the bass rig in another isolation booth.
Yeah, it was in the other little vocal booth, wasn't it? Yeah.
And are you guys just hearing your stuff back then through monitors?
Headphones, with a personal sort of monitor system which you could adjust yourself. So that was quite cool too. So, you know, because we all want something a little different, you know, from the overall sound. But the thing for me was, you know, when we've recorded before, that guide track take, if you like, always ended up being the drums, and sometimes the drum and the drums down the bass, and in our early days even some guitars from those takes ended up being on the final release. But in this instance, they absolutely were, you know, for Aces and Eights, they were just guide tracks. And, you know, we then went back and all the drums were replaced. Absolutely everything from the ground up was then re-recorded. And that was a process that we'd not been through as thoroughly before as on the latest album.
I can imagine.
But obviously the final kind of guitar tracks were through the monitors, you know, sat in the control room with the amps blasting out. Over there. And a couple of times we did go in and get some feedback. You know,
bits,
stood in front of these blisteringly loud amps, which was great fun. So there's quite a bit of feedback. Hopefully musical feedback. That we wanted to put on there. We'd missed that from recording that way before. So in the control room, again, you know, we're used to standing on stage and controlling that a bit. So that was nice to do.
And do you use your own gear when you were recording the albums, or was the gear supplied for you?
No, everything of our own. And in fact, some of the gear we took to the studio for Aces and Eights, you know, the feedback on how good it was some of our gear then got borrowed for subsequent sessions that the studio's kind of organized since. So
very good.
So yeah, I mean, we've got a nice bit of, we've got a good old collection of amps and decent guitars and things between us, and I think I think there was a telly and maybe an acoustic in the room that perhaps ended up on the recordings.
Yeah, Studio Strat was around, that got used on some clean stuff.
That's right. Yeah,
acoustic and a nice old custom shop Telecaster.
Yeah,
which made me go and buy one afterwards. So
yeah, boys and their toys, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
desperate. And so obviously things are going so well for you guys, as you say. You dropped those 2 EPs in 2018, and you had like all these sort of slots, festival slots, and doing your thing, and then 2020 arrived. So how did that impact on you guys?
Yeah, it was pretty bad timing, really, but for everyone. But we hadn't long released Animism, so we were just kicking into the promotional tour for that, which is all UK based. But so we kind of didn't really give it the full run that we'd hoped. And so we a bit of soul searching, and in the downtime, I think we used the time that we had really well, because we did say, well, that kind of, we're doing well with Animism, but we can't tour it. So let's take a bit more time to write the follow-up. So we started quite early into that sort of period to do that, and we did a lot of work moving dates and not losing things. And a lot of management were, and that was quite painful, because we had to move some of them 3 times. But what it did mean is that we were ready to hit the blocks quite early when things lifted. So which so it sort of helped us get established again quite quickly on the live scene. So that was time well spent. And we did a few live streams, few videos,
crazy videos.
So some of them we just recorded individually. Obviously we couldn't get together for like everybody else, so there's some silly videos of us sort of montaging bits of us in our gardens or whatever. And so we kept busy. So even though we couldn't do what we planned to do, it after that first kind of lockdown period, where I think we all went into a bit hibernation and in shock, we came out of that relatively quickly, and we even managed a couple of shows when the restrictions lifted in that first summer.
The little gaps,
you guys in England had a bit of a live scene again from, it was like sort of July, August of 2021, didn't you? So you're lucky that way.
Yeah,
very good. And as you say, you did hit the ground running, because I just saw that you were gigging everywhere, it looked like. So you just ready to go and straight out of the blocks.
And if you think in that entire lockdown, we'd written the songs that became Aces and Eights, rehearsed and did remote pre-production by email, basically sending those backwards and forwards with Josiah J. Manning, who's our producer, and we managed in December 2020 to kind of get into the studio and actually complete those sessions, which was just in the little window where the restrictions just started to be lifted, and obviously the studio was available. We managed to find accommodation down near Plymouth, and even a couple of pubs. When they got to hear we were down there, they opened up and did food for the first time and things like that. It was quite a magical experience, to be fair. And then I can't remember if it was just before or just after Christmas, it all kind of like clamped down again, which so our timing for booking that window was pretty damn good. But
it was really nervy, wasn't it, leading up to that? Can we go? Can we not? We're not going to be able to go and do this. And then all the studio slots are all booked out, as for months after that, because they're booked so far ahead. And so it was, yeah, we're really lucky that we were able to travel and get it down to.
And you touched on it. You went with Josiah at Momentum Studios for that album. So what sort of shaped that decision for you?
Yeah, again, it was kind of we didn't really have a choice. We knew we didn't want to go back to Monkey. We wanted to move forward again from what we'd done there. And I can't remember quite how we found him in the end.
I think we found him on the back of a Chris Barris CD, I think, originally.
Yeah.
Which is same as we've done before. Looking around at recent recordings.
Yeah.
That had a sound that we go, yeah, actually, there's something going on there.
Yeah.
So we found him through that originally, and then looked at some of his other work and looked at the studio, and luckily enough, he said he could fit us in, and he said you kind of they have to want to work with you as well, don't they? The producer has to enjoy and have it's a massive investment by them in emotional investment and time as well. So we kind of hooked up and liked the cut of each other's jibs, right?
It is true though. Like you're talking about that the producer or whoever is going to work with you, they have to pick and choose who they're going to work with as well, because there's only so many projects you can take on in a year or in your lifetimes. Like so you want to make your mark where you can.
Yeah, especially he plays keys and now guitar in the Chris Barris band. So
that's Josiah, right? Okay, yes. I was talking to Chris last week. Actually, he was talking about him. Yeah. So he's got a day job, if you like, but so stuff has to fit in around that as well. But there was some other cool stuff. He asked for put together a playlist of kind of songs that have inspired you, or songs that kind of not necessarily the sound you were looking for, but just kind of it just clicked with us somehow. And so between us, we put about 25 songs in a playlist and pinged that down to him. And then he came straight back with like half a dozen recommendations of things that even we hadn't heard of, that were, absolutely in the sweet spot in terms of, I think was it Shaman's Harvest, I think So it's kind of like a heavier southern sounding kind of band. It's absolutely spot on in terms of kind of what we were aiming for. So we could just kind of tell straight away it was something that was going to work. And then, of course, when we got in the studio, we kind of realized that we absolutely lucked out. It was a perfect choice, because the guy's just
a genius.
He's so musical,
genius.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really annoying because he can do everything better than you can. That's the only thing. But he's got a very good manner with it. He's very polite when he says, "Can I just show you something on the guitar?" Oh no, here we go again. He's phenomenal. He's got such a good ear. But in that manner as well. I think you have to, because he does he's engineered it as well as produced it. So working with someone that can deal with all the foibles of musicians, and it's quite a skill as well. And he's got a lot. He was really, really good to work with.
And things
he hears stuff that we can't hear.
Exactly. I was just going to say that a couple of guitar parts I was playing, and you could sort of tell he wasn't tuning wise just not quite there. And it's my beefy, just squeezing the strings too hard.
Les Paul.
Les Paul, and so he's kind of okay, strings off, next gauge up, strings, re-intonate the guitar, and and by God, did it make a difference? So that, I think that ended up being the sort of go-to guitar for most of my stuff and for the rest of the session. But
used it a few times as well.
And So it's just being able to kind of hear that kind of thing was. Was really cool. Once it's pointed out, you couldn't miss that there was a problem. Very clever guy.
Yeah, well, I know Chris speaks very highly of him, both obviously as a musician within his band and from working with him, and as you say, in the first one or two of their albums as well. So, amazing to have somebody like that in your band.
We're really lucky hugely lucky and privileged to get the chance to work with someone like that. That's clearly is going to have an incredibly long and successful career.
Yeah,
as more people kind of latch on to. Actually, he's really good.
Yeah. And I'm assuming as well, like obviously for you guys working with somebody like that, it's quite inspiring, and it raises your game as well for you as musicians.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it was no hiding, when the light was on for the take, he was kind of, but like Fred said, he just had this great mannerism that you never felt as though you were being pushed into something that you either couldn't do or didn't want to be doing. But yeah, I mean, it was quite a magical experience, really. Kind of, personally, I came away feeling I played a load more guitar on the album than I expected to. It was mainly down to, Josiah sitting there saying, "Oh, let's put this part on as well," kind of thing. And some of the parts that I think that Freddie was probably going to end up playing ended up then having to be reworked, and kind of other parts worked out on the fly, kind of thing. Which was quite cool. So fortunately, not on every track.
I forgot to ask, do one of you guys do lead another rhythm, or do you share the responsibilities?
It's predominantly Freddie's the lead man.
Okay. Yeah. And there's
a few sort of harmony bits and a few little exchanges in there as well. But I tend to do the sort of the bigger sort of solo-y stuff.
Yeah. And there's obviously a discipline as well in the rhythm section of a band. It's quite an art form in itself. Not the Freddie, I'll admit that as well. Like,
oh God, yeah, no. I mean, my timing's dreadful for a start. So because Moose played bass as well for a long time, so he's on the beat or where he wants to be, whereas I'm always ahead of the beat. Typical lead guitarist.
Well, I'm just a simple bedroom warrior. I've never been in a band or anything, and I tried to do a wee thing a couple of weeks back with a friend, just like a jingle for Rock and Load. Jesus, my timing was shocking, So I totally get the discipline side of it. I need to really work on that side of it myself. It's shocking. Yeah. It's an art form in itself, though, isn't it? And you see these guys like Savai, Satriani, or Bonamassa who can just pick up and do a run, and it's perfectly on time. It's heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah.
There's room for sloppy people like me, don't worry.
Yeah.
For all of us. Yeah. A lot of love in this room. So tell me about yourselves then, guys, as guitar players. Like, who inspired you? What made you want to pick up the guitar in the first place?
Oh, good. Well, Freddie, you go with that one.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
The time I suppose it was just getting into rock music to start with. It was people like Thin Lizzy and Deep Purple and UFO. Michael Schenker kind of is a huge influence. He's a stunning musician. His composition and he's got everything, but it's not all. I'm not really into the highly technical kind of players. Gary Moore, Brian Robertson back in the day, and some more obscure kind of stuff like Budgie. I'm a huge Budgie fan, so I used to like Tony Balge and John Thomas after that. It was just so much rock music about, and they all had these great guitar players in Bad Company, just. So it was all that kind of stuff really, and I like really all of it. And I got into the Randy Rhodeses and the Eddie Van Halens and Nuno Bettencourts a bit. Not that I could play any of that stuff, but I love it all. It was just everywhere, wasn't it?
And your guitar journey. So like, were you always a Fender guy, a Gibson guy?
Well, kind of starting out with a really bad sort of Columbus Les Paul copy. So. It's the second guitar I got, but it was the first one that I kind of thought it looks like the Thin Lizzy guitars. It looks like Jimmy Page, one of the huge influence. So I like that. And then in the 80s, no one played those apart from Slash. Everyone else was playing Super Strats, 80s, 90s. So I had a whammy bar. Sort of Jackson type thing, Fernandez, which I still got. so I played that predominantly, and some odd shaped kind of Washburns and things that were fashionable. And the guitars got pretty leery and wacky, didn't they?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think when I could afford a proper Les Paul, I had a payout from a kind of redundancy, and went and bought my first proper Les Paul, and it was just here it is. Yeah. So I'm a Gibson guy. Yeah. Now,
it makes a difference. Makes a difference when you get a good quality guitar in your hand, doesn't it? Because obviously we all aspire to have something like that, but there is just when it feels absolutely right when you get the right guitar in your hand.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Moose? Which one
did
you take?
My journey is broadly the same. I mean, I come from a very musical family, so my mother's a piano player, violin player, so was always encouraged to sing and be in silly school productions and all that kind of stuff. So I played trumpet in a Glenn Miller swing band, and so I've got a bit of theoretical grounding as well, O-level music and what have you. But it seemed as though everybody was a guitarist when, I was always into rock music, similar kind of stuff, Live and Dangerous, Thin Lizzy, and that kind of great era, the sort of mid to late 70s, if you like, when stuff like Van Halen first album broke through and things like that happening, early 80s. But there seemed to be loads of guitar players around, so I sort of naturally gravitated towards bass. But so my first few bands, I played bass, and then that became fairly serious in the I guess the late 80s, early 90s. So I was in a few decent bands around that kind of time. But I always played guitar for my own enjoyment at home, because I mean, bass is pretty dull instrument to be sat in the living room, just playing along with a song or something. But so when I met Fred, which was completely by accident, we live in the same village, but and a mutual friend had seen an advert for this guy looking, guitarist looking to put a band together. So and the mutual friend said to me, "Oh, I saw your advert," and I was kind of like, "Well, it wasn't my advert. How does that come about?" So that's how we hooked up, and at that point I was kind of ambidextrous between staying on bass or playing some guitar. But Fred was very encouraging, and so our first couple of sort of cover band things that we did in Bristol, I concentrated more on guitar, and pretty much the last 15 years, I guess, I've probably hardly played any bass at all. So but yeah, and I've kind of, I guess, because I came back to guitar late, I was into Les Pauls and stuff straight away. Gibson Explorers, I've got quite a few of those as well. So so I think the only Fender I've got a Richie Kotzen Telecaster in my guitar collection. Yeah. Which is the guitar. It's the most unlike Telecaster guitar you could ever buy, So
it's got quite a chunky neck. I couldn't get the size of the neck. Yeah, it's like a baseball
absolutely bat. Massive. Yeah. So, but really, with the humbucker bridge pickup and stuff, it doesn't sound like a Tele really. It's but yeah, really nice guitar. But yeah, and like Freddie said, the kind of pointy headstock, radical shape kind of era. I was a massive Randy Rhoads fan as well. So so the white Les Paul Custom and the white and then the black Randy Rhoads shark fin kind of guitar. I was always after one of those, and I was lucky enough to pick one up a few years ago. So so that was quite cool. But
and
yeah, this is my favorite. I'm kind of so again, valve amps basically, nothing really too clever. It's we've not gone, neither of us have gone down the sort of technology route beyond. I mean, Freddie's got a bit of switching cleverness going on his pedal board, but I've not even got that. I've just got a bit of delay and a boost in the effects loop, and everything else comes from the guitar or the amp, so
and do you play the Cornfords on stage?
Yes. So this is my number one. This is my Hellcat, which is my predominant live signature 100 watt in the studio, which is the amp that Josiah ended up borrowing for some other sessions. But yeah, and this has got it's got kind of like a vintage channel and a modern channel, and I predominantly use the modern channel, but with not too much gain, but it is still quite gainy. I don't use a clean sound at all, so it's kind of even when it's not the high gain sound, it's still got some edge to it, you know. So cleans up a bit off the guitar, but even then, not. I don't have a sparkly clean requirement at all, you know. So
you just sort of like layer your gain if you want to. Add a boost pedal on top if you need a bit more
so again, I'll bring in a bit of boost and a bit of delay for the. There's a couple of solos from older tracks. So there's a bit of solo in Brotherhood, and so I might just kick that in for just a little bit of boost. There's a little bit of swell delay on one song as well, Into the Great Unknown. So just having the delay in the loop to be able to kind of bring the volume up on the guitar and get that kind of multi-layered echo thing. But other than that, it's pretty much guitar and an amp that's kind of coming out, you know.
Yeah. And Fred, yourself, then what amps do you use?
Well, yeah, kind of what
Victory
became really. So yeah, primarily live I use some Richie Kotzen signature, that's 50 watt. And in the studio I use the little Sheriff 22, which is to the L84s. It's kind of, you can see the color, it's kind of Marshall inspired.
I picked up one of the Sheriff V4 pedals, you know, the preamp pedals. So I picked it up during lockdown, and you obviously run it like a 4-cable connection system and through your send return on your amp, and it was wide open volume wise. So like I think it was like 120 watts or something, 180 watts, and I was just like melted your face. It was I couldn't use it. I sadly couldn't use it because it was just so loud. I couldn't control the volume, you know. But it was stunning sound off it. I love the lower gain setting actually more than anything else. Just such a rich tone.
Yeah. I mean, Josiah was like constantly swapping the two inputs and riding the volume. But not a massive amount of gain. You know,
and is there much difference between that and the Kotzen? Are they tonally or sonically quite different?
Yeah, not hugely different. They're both because the Kotzen's kind of inspired by the RK100 that Moose mentioned earlier, which is a sort of souped up plexi kind of sound. So they're in the same ballpark. So that's got a bit more headroom. And sound wise, you know, I can get them quite close. But for live, the Sheriff's really hard to get any level volume boost for solos, which a lot of us, a lot of that's operated by us, not by the sound guy. So it's a bit of an essential really. So that's the main difference I use it is it's got more headroom, so it's a bit nicer with when you use delays and things, which I do use a couple of. And I kind of grown to love the sound of it more really. But Josiah's ears are better than mine. He made me use this one, but I next time I'm going to make him use that one. I don't think he gave it a fair shout.
Well, it's funny, isn't it though? And when you're recording, generally less is more when it comes to gain. You know, you can't take it back, so you want to try and be able to layer it if you want to, rather than overcompensating.
And that's quite challenging, you know, sat in the control room in a different environment where you're not right on top of your speakers, you've not got half as much gain as you used to, you know, you've just had heavier strings put on your favorite guitar, you're kind of you're playing some crazy tuning that you've not tried before, and it's kind of like, this is
how much harder can it get?
Well, isn't it? You know,
now you've taken away all my compression, I got nowhere to hide.
Exactly. So
pedal wise, I mean, I've got a little bit more than going on, but it's mostly switching really. But I got that lot.
And what have you got on there?
Switcher at the bottom. So there's a couple of delays, 2 delays at the top, Tech 21s. They're both the same, they're just different eras. So the gold one and the white one. I've got a little Hall of Fame reverb with a plate reverb in it, and that's those 2 are in the loop. So that's kind of my solo sound coming from that end. I've got a kind of the yellow thing is a Paul Gilbert Detox, and that basically get me a pseudo clean. So it's a kind of less gain pedal. So it's the
anti-gain.
And I just use the switcher at the bottom, switches the amp, so it goes from the boost that's in the amp to the less boost. Like Andy, I haven't really got a clean. And I got the drop pedal, which is just for Damage Reputation, to try and get that kind of filtery sound that we got in the studio. And then the big huge thing at the bottom, the Lex, is a kind of Leslie simulator, which I just use on one song as well. So the two biggest pedals taking up all the space I use on one song. If we drop them from the set, they'll come off. And a tiny little wah. Going backwards.
The mini wah.
The little mini auto crybaby wah on the end, and a line 6 wireless. So that's it. So most of it's just the most of the time the normal sound is none of that. It's just the amp on the boost channel. And then I got, for the cleanery stuff, I stick the delays in and a bit of reverb, and the odd thing for a couple of songs. And there's a little chorus hiding on the back there because I put out space on the top, which I use on some of the clean sounds as well. It's a TC Electronic Corona, and it's on the Dimension D. They do a Dimension D kind of thing, which is, it's like a chorus but not quite as swelly. It was a big huge Boss rack mounted effect when they first did it, but that's been, those things change. All those weird ones do revolve, but the core sound is just the amp.
Yeah. I could just imagine Dan from that pedal show having palpitations watching that pedal board.
Looking at my pedal board in the absolute headset. Well, there's no gain on there and there's no fuzz on there. So, he couldn't live with that, could he? All you need is fuzz. I don't.
Exactly. You'd be horrified. I was speaking to Chris Barris to say the other week, and he uses a Kemper. So
we know.
I couldn't believe it. I was so surprised, but he does have quite a heavy sound. Actually, his sound is quite heavy. It's not really your traditional sort of low gain bluesy rock. It's quite rocky. It is sort of in there, gritty.
Well, we know where that came from, don't we, Andy?
Yeah, well, we do. So that's so it's those sounds are my comfort amp that he borrowed, that he's then sucked into his Kemper somehow. So that was used for the latest album, which just came out last week, didn't it?
He was saying that they recorded the amps. He didn't mention your amp, but he says recorded the amps, and he's now got those in his Kemper. Hope you're getting paid every time he plays the guitar, though.
No. So that's cool.
no, he owes us, I think.
That's right.
And so, guys,
those Cornfords have got some provenance as well. They used to belong to Paul Thompson of the Cure. I bought both of them, the original ones. And made Andy buy one of them. I accidentally bought two because they were going too cheap in an online auction. But they were Paul Thompson's that I think he used with the Cure. I think he might have used them with Robert Plant, Page and Plant as well when he played with them.
Okay, very good.
And then we lent them to Richie Kotzen for the Winery Dogs tour last time they came over for the UK run. He used them for 3 of the dates. So they've been played by
a few famous people, and
Paul Thompson, Richard Kotzen, Andy Muse. Chris Barris as usual. Yours has got more provenance than mine now because it's by Chris Barris.
And do you have a lot of gear? Obviously, you've been, as you say, you've been playing guitar for a long time, or have you been able to sort of rein it in and say, like, I have what I need?
No, I think I was really lucky in the early 2000s. I used to get trip to the USA for work quite regularly, and that was a time when it was $2 to the pound as well. And
good old days.
I made a great connection with the manager of the Guitar Center in Houston, which was literally about 100 yards down the road from the hotel I used to stay in, and so quite often I'd end up buying 3 or 4 guitars and sort of bringing one back on the plane and shipping the rest home, kind of thing. But so I did start gradually sort of nibbling into a little bit of scaling down, maybe a couple of years ago, but it was very much kind of sell a couple of mid-range Les Pauls to get one really nice one, so So yeah, there's
do you
gear
think
everywhere.
do you think that either of you have your Halo guitars? Have you got what you think you were always wanting, or is there something out there still that's eating at you?
No, I think I'm quite satisfied at the moment, to be honest. I mean, I've got a thing for the custom shop reissue Les Pauls, and I think I've managed to pick a nice little selection from the range. So and then a couple of crazy things as well, like a Les Paul Access with the whammy bar on it and things. So I've got those stashed away somewhere. But yeah, it's been a while since I've been really hankering after anything in particular. And I mean, Freddie, you're probably exactly the same, aren't you?
Yeah, I got way less guitars than you. So, and I tend to use the same. I'll gravitate to that one.
Yeah.
Are these modern Les Pauls, or sorry, are there any of them?
It's 1999, so it's not that modern. It's a 1999, just a standard.
And what sort of weight is that, out of curiosity? Is it heavy?
Sorry,
heavy in weight?
It's probably just under 10 pounds. It's not.
Yeah, so a medium weight, isn't it? It's kind of not super lightweight, is it? So
no, it's not chambered. It's just solid body. So it's heavy compared to a lot of the modern ones.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got another one which is almost exactly the same, which is a 2000, I think, or 2001. But this, there's just one of them speaks to you a bit more. And it's a cracking guitar, nice dark board. Had the frets done a few times now, and you're going to need doing again soon. But
standard pickups on them, or do any of you guys use anything different?
It hasn't. It's the bare knuckle crawlers.
Okay.
Which it came with. I swapped the amp that Andy's got behind him on the top was one similar to that. I swapped this guitar with a guy that we know from South Wales that wanted the amp, and it was a real surprise. It actually had the wrong bridge on it when I got it. So I think that's why maybe didn't realise it was as good a guitar as it is. It's gorgeous because that medium profile, so it's not thick, not thin. And the bare knuckles are really nice, and I've gone and put those in
some of the other
guitars, the spare guitar, and I've got a nice Explorer as well that I would use more. It's just the case is so big because we're always in and out of the bands, and you've got to put a different strap on and things. So I'm lazy when it comes to
first world problems, and that goes under.
Yeah.
Well,
my only other extravagance was that, which was the custom shop telly that I bought after playing the one in Desire's studio, which is kind of.
Is that Daphne Blue or Sonic Blue?
It's Sonic Blue, Sonic Blue, and it's all wage and stuff. It's lovely. But I haven't got the guts to play it live because of the single coils.
Yeah, it's come out at rehearsals a few times, but it's never made it as far as the stage yet, has it? So
it's been as a spare. I've taken it as a backup.
Yeah, I thought so.
I haven't broken a string for I don't know how long.
Famous last words.
So I know that's a lethal thing to say, but it's true. I just don't break strings. I can have it just to look nice on the stand, and hopefully not need it.
I have a telly very similar in color, but it's a Nashville telly. So one of the 3 single coils.
Yes,
it's just a Mexican one, but it's a beautiful guitar, and I think just the versatility of having the 3 single coils as opposed to just the 2 on the telly just offered that little bit more for me.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, Nashville, wasn't it? Nashville
telly. Yeah, so you get the Strat middle pickup in the middle, and a 5-way selector. Then and then obviously when I wasn't happy with the single coil, I put a Seymour Duncan Hot Reels into it, so it changed changed it a little bit, But I went back to the single coil after a while, just kept it as it was.
Yeah. I'm a great fan of the custom bucker pickups that Gibson have been using in their custom shop stuff for quite some time now. I don't know, 7 or 8 years maybe, but I think it was the sort of upmarket burst bucker. So I think 2 or 3 at least of the reissues I've got those custom, and they seem to be, they're kind of like hot enough, but still with a clarity that the burst bucker never gave. You know, it's kind of so yeah, I've kind of, you know, I wish Gibson made the pickups as a replacement aftermarket set, and I'd probably buy a few and sling them in a couple of the other guitars as well. But they do pop up occasionally secondhand when people have taken them out and gone for some real high-end boutique kind of upgrade. But but even then, they're, you know, £300-400 a set kind of thing. You know, it seemed to command a good price because availability is so rubbish. But
it's a frustrating thing about pickups. I think I would love to try more, but it's the hassle, you know, that they've taken the guitars, and then, you know, you're just never sure what you're getting, and everything's so different when it comes to sound. You know, your amps, your guitar, you're putting it into just so many variables, you know. So it's
and speakers make a much more difference, and you know, we have to use, you know, what you get given at festivals and things half the time. You know, and you know, our heart sinks when I'm upset every Marshall owners here, but it's a flat-fronted Marshall 4x12 with G12, you know, G12 75s in or whatever. Oh no, that just sound like crisp packets being whacked against the wall. And you have to turn the amp right up because they're really inefficient, and there's no projection.
Super directional, aren't they? That's one of the issues that we found. I mean, the Cornford cabs, I mean, we both use 2x12 cabs sat on the top of a flight case, you know, so you get a bit of height as well. But the you know, the 2x12 seems to kind of disperse the sound really, really broadly, whereas, you know, Marshall 4x12 especially, it seems to be like tunnel sound, you know. So you step a little bit off axis and it's kind of like, hold on, the guitar's cut out completely, what's happened? But
I mean, you say, you know, you change all your leads and get all cork sniffy on it, and then you end up playing through something which makes a huge difference to your sound that you've got no control over. So I think it's hard to, I think in the studio it makes much more difference.
Definitely.
You know, as we said, you know, we're changing string gauges, and you know, I remember using Andy's custom bucker guitar on quite a few of my kind of rhythmy tracks because it just sounded better. You know, you can hear it, but live, you know, you can't really tell whether it's a Telecaster or
Sometimes I say, I was playing through such large volume and distortion, you know, the people in the crowd maybe won't know the difference, but you guys will just be feeling it yourselves, you know, and whether that resonates then to how you feel when you're playing. I suppose that's the important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it kind of does. It kind of gets in your head, you know. If it's not, it doesn't have to be 100% spot on, but you know, in a live environment, you want it to be kind of close to what you're looking for. So, and then that's just one thing that you don't have to spend any of your time considering. You know, you can then put more effort into the actual performance, or you know, assuming the playing's going to be a given from the start. But it can be tricky.
It can affect it, can't it? I mean, you had I won't say where, but you had pretty bad sound at one of your cab was worse than mine, wasn't it? And we move around the stage a lot. We change sides and, you know, do a bit of guitar together and swap around. So it gets hard then because you go off axis and you've got no sound basically. You know, and most of the time we haven't got much, you know, our cells aren't coming out the monitors or the side fills or anything. So it does make a difference, and you just get used to, you know, what you're used to, what sounds good.
What about the guitars themselves? So for example, if do you notice a big difference in how the guitar feels in your hand from venue to venue and stuff like that there?
Temperature wise, I mean, sometimes, you know, you feel claggy, you know, if it's a hot sticky day, you know, the necks are always, you know, it's horrible. I lose a bit, you know, I like a bit of dry, you know, dry feeling necks and hands. That can make a difference. Obviously the Gibsons are prone to being fairly temperature sensitive as well, so, you know, tuning can be a problem if it's really cold when you start and it all heats up. But not really. Don't notice anything else. I don't know what you do, Andy.
No, exactly the same. It's kind of like a bit of care and attention, loading, unloading, you know, taking the guitars into the hotel room overnight, that kind of thing is where we kind of focus. But I think a couple of outdoor festivals we've played have been perhaps a little bit chilly, and we've kind of, you've not had that kind of club sweaty indoor environment kind of thing, and all of a sudden it's completely different. But I was thinking Rocking the Bowl in Sheffield last year was a bit like that. It was a nice day, not raining or anything, but perhaps a little colder than we've been used to. But so you do get those slight environmental challenges, but yeah, I've been fortunate enough. I don't think any of my guitars suffer particularly from transport or different environments or things. It's not like a fine old acoustic or something. It's
I mean, we're never adjusting the truss rods or anything on the road.
No.
Don't you see some people with old SGs and things, and they're doing it every show, aren't they? And these are pretty solid. So
yeah. And you guys are looking after your gear yourselves. You don't have a guitar tech or anything helping you out?
Yeah, pretty much everything. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as fretwork or nut type adjustments, but anything else is pretty much doable. I've certainly done pickup swaps, intonation, truss rod adjustments, all that kind of thing. So we're fairly self-sufficient when it comes to kind of doing all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Good. And so what's on the cards for you guys next then? Anything in the immediate future?
Ooh, fairly non-stop, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
We got we're playing very few gaps. So we're off to Rocking by the River in a couple of weeks. I don't know when this will come out. Little festival down south.
Showcase gig in London, 31st of March,
in London.
The Black Heart. So and then throughout the summer, there's various kind of festival appearances with perhaps a gig or two of our own, either before or afterwards, to kind of make things into a little run, and that carries on through till kind of September, and then it goes completely crazy for the rest of the year for us. So September, October, and November is exceptionally busy. So
off to France again, aren't we?
Going back to
play
France,
at Fest. That's with the Darkness are there, I think, in Grand Slam, and some
Choir Boys,
Choir Boys, So there's a few Brits over there. That would be good.
And
up to Scotland a couple of times, and
as you touched on earlier on, you guys just sort of really embracing this newfound fame all over again. And I say later in life, but you've worked hard and grafted for it, and you're finally getting your just rewards. So it must just be an absolute pleasure to do it day in, day out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do have those moments in the van, where we're kind of like, can you believe it? This is where we're going today. It's so it's quite amazing, really.
Yeah, so I think you do want to do probably more than you might want to do if you had longer to do it.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Well, look, guys, I'll leave it here with you. I really do. Thank you for your time today. It's a great pleasure chatting to you. Hopefully, we'll get you across to Northern Ireland at some stage. Any chance you might get on the?
Oh, yeah, we'd be up for that for sure. Yeah.
We just need to find the right promoter and venue, and we'll be over like a shot. We're not.
Jump on the coattails. Jump on the coattails of one of those other Southern rock bands. Sure, tell them to drag you across with them.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
We're doing some stuff with Molly Hatchet, aren't we, later in the year? So we'll have to get them to go over.
Absolutely. We do have there's a huge, obviously, audience for it here as well. Like Country to Country's playing Dublin. I think it's this weekend. So that's on down there. And then your Southern Rock, the Blackberry Smoke, and the Blackstone Cherry guys are always over here. So So speak to Chris. Chris needs to come back as well. He owes you, remember?
Yeah.
Well, look, guys, once again, thanks very much for your time. Absolute pleasure. Fred and Andy from Sons of Liberty. Pleasure to meet you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having us.
Mark,
Take care. Catch you guys on the other side.
Cheers.